Welcome to Wealth Well Done. Together, we'll cover a wide range of important topics surrounding money and the impact it has on our lives. From the sophisticated and highly valuable planning techniques of the ultra-wealthy to the commonly underutilized biblical teachings. Together, we'll work to improve our relationship with money and our effectiveness in stewarding it well. Here's your host, Eric Scovill.
All right, welcome to the 86th episode of the Wealth Well Done podcast, where we are examining tactical, practical, and biblical ways to help you do your wealth well done. Last week, we were spending time on taxes. We're talking about preparation and what you need to be doing to prepare for your taxes, as well as how to partner with your CPA. And rather than just show up to your CPA's office or send them your information and expect that you're getting the best that your CPA has to offer, what you really need to do to take an active role in that process to get the most out of your CPA. And thinking about that led me into today's topic, which is about how to choose your right team. So I when I give the disclaimer, which we'll go ahead and give right now and then talk about that. So the disclaimer is that all of this information is meant to be educational. This is not financial advice for you. And I want you to take the information I give you here and talk it over with your team, your financial team, which that typically includes your financial advisor, who's going to be the investment advisor, the CPA, and whoever's giving you tax advice, your legal team, whoever's giving you the legal advice there. And there could be other people involved with your financial team as well, as if you get heavily involved with real estate or something else like that. So anyways, I give that disclaimer. I give that here again today, but when I give that, I want to just have me thinking about helping people as they go about choosing the right team. A lot of the work that we are getting brought into with stewardship and stewardship planning revolves around coming into some of these ultra high net worth families and helping them look at their really their whole financial makeup through a lens of the Bible, and looking at how much are they really aligned with what the Bible has to say, with what Jesus says about how to manage money, where money should lie inside importance in your world, and what you're doing with it, how you are effectively stewarding your money. Because to the people listening to this podcast, you probably qualify as the wealthy that he talks about, and therefore we're going to give an account for how we handle our wealth. We're going to give an account for the type of stewardship that we have displayed. And he makes it real clear that it's going to be tough. And he doesn't say that it's easier for a camel to fit through the eye of the needle than a rich person to inherit the kingdom. He doesn't say that lightly. That's not just him, just throwing around loose words and trying to scare people. And so with that perspective, as we talk to these families that we're, bringing stewardship type training to, we're often explaining to them that, listen, just because your advisor says they're Christian doesn't mean they have a Christian worldview, doesn't mean that they are giving you Christian advice. And it's so important to get the team picked properly. So I wanted to take the episode today to lean into that. There's so many nuances around trying to get the right team that this won't be a comprehensive list, but should hopefully get you on the right path here. For example, when we're going to spend a lot of time talking about the Christian side of this, but if you are big into real estate, I've got a number of friends who are big into real estate. I believe heavily in real estate. But if you're big into real estate and you're going to a standard financial advisory shop, most of the advisors there don't have much real estate in their own personal portfolio. They don't get paid by you having a bunch of money in real estate, and they would rather see you have more money invested with them. And so you need to understand that if I have seen real estate work and build my wealth around it, that's my skill set and expertise. If I'm going to an advisor who doesn't have that type of skill set or expertise or belief in the power of real estate, then I either need to know that going in, so that way I say, listen, here, Mr. or Mrs. Advisor, you're going to manage 10% of my wealth, which is this portion over here that I want liquid. And so you're going to manage that for me. But the rest of this I'm in charge of, and that's inside, the area of my expertise, or just understand that when you're going in that they have we now have a conflict of interest here because they know your net worth and they would rather manage more of that than the portion that you're giving them. So anyways, that's just one example. From a Christian perspective, we're going to talk about what it looks like to not just use Jesus as a marketing tool. The name of our company here, Storehouse Wealth. It is a biblical reference for sure. It's slightly more subtle. You have to have read the Bible a little bit to understand. Storehouse is a fairly common word in the Bible, but it's not that common outside of that in everyday language today. So it's subtle there, but Jesus is absolutely at the forefront of what we're doing. But some people use it just because it looks really good on a marketing tool. They can bring in members from their church in as clients as they try to build their book of business. And you need to vet that out to understand, am I getting biblical advice or am I getting worldly advice from someone who would claim Christianity? And that there's a tremendous difference in that. How your legal, even tax or financial advisors are recommending when you get an inheritance or when you sell an asset, or even looking at your income, if they're not sitting down and saying, let's have a heartfelt discussion about giving, what is the Lord wanting you to do with this? Well, that's the basis of being a steward, is you're in charge of someone else's assets. And so if you're not asking the person in charge, then you're not going to be a good steward. And no advice that anyone gives you is going to, God isn't cookie cutter with this. And so I just think that it's really important that you understand that just because someone is Christian doesn't mean you're getting Christian advice. And that is going to start with sitting with the person whose assets they actually are and spending quiet time with him and asking him how he would like you to use the assets that he has entrusted to you. So let that be a good kind of catalyst for thinking through, is the team that I have the right team? And I want to go ahead and say that it's kind of tough to find those good people here. I also want to go ahead and say that none of this episode is a plug to have you come in and be a client of ours at Storehouse. Our doors are not completely closed, but pretty closed. We serve a very very specific, defined clientele, and most people aren't going to be that target for us. So I just want to make sure that this is meant to be helpful to you. This is not a marketing play on my behalf either. So we're going to talk about investment advisors, lawyers, and accountants in this episode here, and some things that you can use to try to pick the right team for you. But I do want to I'm going to spend a lot more time talking about the investment advisor realm because I know that better. I know what else is out there. And I'm going to speak from a little bit more experience there than I am legal or tax. So for an investment advisor, one of the things that you want to do is identify what is it that you're looking for. Is just because you get referred to an investment advisor, financial advisor, those are, we're talking about the same thing there. If you get referred to someone, that shouldn't mean much, except that maybe someone has a warm relationship with them. Understand where the referral is coming from. If it's coming from someone that's in a BNI group or something else like that, where the referral is, there's an ulterior motive behind that of the way that, they're trying to refer people back and forth. You need to be aware of that. Is there a conflict of interest even inside this referral that I'm getting? The next thing to think about is does this person, really defining what it is that you're looking for. I am looking for someone who can help me understand, when can I retire? How much money do I need? How much can I spend in my remaining years? Or someone who can help me get my whole financial picture in order, because my estate plan is 15 years out of date, and whatever else is going on there. Or I'm getting an inheritance, I'm selling a business, I need help here with those things. Getting specific about what you're looking for can often help you get a financial advisor that is best suited for that, because it's not uncommon to tell someone your problem first and then let them say, oh yeah, no, I can do that, while they they try to fake their way through that one. So get specific about what it is that you want. I would recommend making sure that someone listens well to you is very important, and don't just take that on the first meeting, because the first meeting, their whole goal is to let you do 90% of the talking, while they're extracting information from you. They call it a fact finding. They want to learn more about you, um, and places where they can bring you value. And I'm not knocking that at all. It's absolutely important there, but the um, that first meeting is not necessarily a reflection of how the relationship will be when you're 10 meetings in. So understand, you can tell when someone is a good listener and not just trying to extract information from you. The knowledge, you want a financial advisor to be knowledgeable. You're not looking for someone who's just a really good people person, but themselves don't carry much knowledge, because then they're literally not doing any of their own research, and they are just taking someone else's advice, someone else's word for it. If they're a really great networker, they might not make a really great financial advisor. And so maybe they're the person who brought you in, but you want to get to know the person who's actually going to be producing the financial advice that you're going to receive, and not just the person who is fun to golf with, or something else like that. So understand that side of it. A financial advisor, it takes a ton of behind the scenes work to do that well. And so you want someone who's going to do the behind the scenes work well. They, they need to be fluent on a computer. They need to be good at reading. They need to understand math really well. They also need good people skills, and there's that side of it too. But you can, if you've defined what it is you're looking for, you might find someone who is brilliant at investment research, and they're not a good people person. But if you know what you're looking for, then that obviously will help you, guide you there. In the case of new financial advisors, just want to educate you on how that process works. So a new financial advisor, whether they're young and fresh out of college or they've switched careers, most advisory firms will bring them in, tell them to put together a list of their 200 contacts, and they're going to try to highlight the ones that are the higher net worth. And then those people, their job is to then call everyone on that list and try to get them to come in for a meeting and say, hey, just wanted you to know what I'm up to now, and would like to wanted to see if you'd be willing to come in for a meeting as a favor to me. And then when you come in for the meeting, you're not so much meeting with them, you're meeting with someone who has been assigned to be a mentor to them and help train them, which nothing wrong with that, but you need to understand a little bit of how that works. Typically the older, more experienced advisor is going to be with them. They're going to split the case, assuming that the new person is already investment licensed. If not, then they're hoping that they'll get investment license later and then eventually take a split on your case. But the older advisor is going to offer to help. They're going to split the case. If the new advisor makes it in the career, then you can become their client, or you become a joint client of theirs. If the new advisor doesn't make it, then they're out, and you just become that client of that older advisor. And that's how a lot of this works, because there's such a high failure rate. There's over an 85% failure rate for new financial advisors. So a lot of business is picked up by working with the newbies and taking their contacts that they bring in. You're likely to get less attention in this model if that's how you're being brought in, because one person, the new person, is trying to learn and grow their business. They don't have much of the understanding yet, and they're trying to build a book of business. And the other one, the older advisor, is more experienced, but they're typically only getting about half of the fee that you earn, that you bring in. And so therefore you're not as likely, you're less likely to be as important to them as you would be if they had brought you in on their own. So just be aware of that, and just understand that, especially if you are wealthy or have a prominent business, or you got a doctor in front of your name or anything like that, you're going to be on people's targets list. But you probably already know that. If someone is older than in this, you want to understand, how stubborn are they? Because there's some things that don't really change in the financial market, and it pays to pay attention to have sound principles, but other things are changing quite a bit. And with the increase of technology and the rate of change of which we are experiencing in tech, it's changing a lot of things about the investment world. And so you just want to make sure that that you understand what you're getting there. So someone may be less open to direct investments because they have been raised in a career where that was something that was frowned upon by the firm that they were in or something like that. So you want to understand that. You understand really how they were trained. The shop that the investment shop that they come from is likely will tell you a lot about them. If they're Morgan Stanley or Merrill Lynch or Edward Jones, Northwestern Mutual, Thrivent, you can get a pretty good feel, because they all train very similarly. You can get a pretty good feel of what type of advice you'll be getting from an advisor in that realm. Not completely. Everyone's got some unique skill sets, but there's something to that. Next thing on the investment advisor piece is you want to understand how they're paid. So the most traditional or the most widely accepted version of payment today is AUM fees. So AUM stands for assets under management. You're likely to see a range of 0.5% up to 1.8% is the typical range. And so it's a big range there. The person who's charging more is either doing a lot more work or finds themselves to be a lot more valuable to clients, or if someone's charging you north of 1.5%, then there's probably you want to understand why, because that's getting very pricey. The people who are charging 0.5%, you need to understand, are they trying to win your business through discount, and is that the type of advisor that you're looking for? Another way they can get paid is by planning fees. And so some people are fee only. You'll see that. And so what that means, they might have a one-time fee or an annual fee that they do. Those one-time fees for doing a financial plan for you can range anywhere from $2,500 to, I've seen them as high as $50,000 for a plan. But then you need to understand, is there an ongoing fee beyond that as well? And what does that look like? The people who are insurance licensed only, this is a big one. So the investment licenses they're tough to get. Now you can obviously get them, but it's a significant barrier to entry, because they are challenging tests. And so there are a lot of people, especially who are newer in the business, who are only insurance licensed. And so if they're only insurance licensed, they can still be a financial advisor in a sense of that the common public is going to understand. But you have to understand that they are likely, if they're not bringing a joint partner in on the case to run the investment portfolio, then they're likely to do things that they can earn a commission on, which is they're going to be trying to drive you into insurance products. Whole life is going to be, you're going to see a lot of whole life and universal life in this space, and annuities. So those two things. So if you want to understand, are they licensed? So the licenses are typically, you've got a Series 6 or a Series 7 license, and then you also have a Series 65, 66, there's 63, and there's a number of other ones in here too, if they're in commodities or other things, or other licenses. But these series licenses are what you're trying to understand, and what they have. And if they don't have an investment license, then just understand they can't talk to you about the investment of investments the same way that someone is licensed can. And so their suite of things that they can, their suite of tools is pretty limited. So if you're getting whole life recommendations or annuity recommendations, you want to make sure that the reason for that is not just because someone is only allowed to sell those, and rather that product is truly the best fit for you. You'll also see brokerage commissions. These are somewhat on their way out. FINRA has really pushed against this because of investment brokers that are churning accounts, which means they, the example of we'll sell Coca-Cola, but we're going to flip around and buy Pepsi instead. And so if they're just making a bunch of moves in your account and there's not really good reasons why, then they might be earning a commission every time they buy or sell a stock for you. And so they're trying to push out that model there, and there's not as much of that left. The other one is there's a fee-based planning model, which this is our preferred method here of fixed monthly fees. It's very much scope driven, so not blanket at all. Our model as a firm is very much driven by the type of work that a client wants us to do, and so determining a fee based on that. You'd like to understand if the people are product agnostic or investment firm agnostic. If someone's a Northwestern Mutual advisor, I can have a pretty strong feeling that they're going to be trying to sell you Northwestern Mutual insurance, and they believe wholeheartedly that they truly believe that Northwestern Mutual's whole life products is one of the best things out there, and so they're going to sell you on that, not because they're trying to cheat you or anything else, but just because that's what they're trained, that's what they know. They like that a lot. If a Morgan Stanley advisor is trying to sell you Morgan Stanley funds, you just want to understand what motives there are to the investment choices that they are recommending. The other things that we want to do is we want to, like I mentioned earlier, that they want to spend time in the beginning trying to extract information from you. They want you to do all the talking for this fact-finding time. They'll be writing the stuff down and trying to understand your kids and their birthdays and your anniversary and other personal questions that they want to know about. But really, I want to encourage you to take control of the meeting and flip this back to them. And I want you to interview them instead. And so ask them about, so you can ask them personal questions. It's really good to ask them personal questions about their family. Ask them about their giving. Ask them about their understanding of stewardship. Ask about their business plans. What growth plans are they doing? Are they trying to acquire another book of business? Are they hiring more advisors? Are they slowing down on their way out, or what's their thing there? Here's another really good one. Is tell them to remove the top 10% and the bottom 10% of their clients, and what is the net worth range of the middle 80%. And these are financial advisors. They should know business. They should know their numbers well. So that's not too tough of a question to ask, but it'll be really informative for you there to understand the type of clients that they serve and where do you fit in that range. You don't want to be, it's great to be important to someone, but you don't want to be their wealthiest client. If you are, you don't want to be by far their wealthiest client. You can in certain situations, but just understand that it's different than if you're right in the middle of the pack for someone, or if you're in their top 20%, and that's a good goal there. You can ask them what kind of complexities do they deal with, and how do they work with the advisory team members of their other wealthy clients. So how do they work with their CPAs and lawyers, and don't just accept the answer, oh yeah, no, we work with them to do planning together, and we just like, no, very specifically pick a person. Don't tell me their name, but tell me exactly what you do with their CPA. How often do you meet with them? What is that interaction like? Are you allowed to email the lawyers and talk to them, on behalf of the client? Like, just understand what it is that they do in those interactions there. And I would just recommend you not to take everything at face value, because financial advisory has a lot of salesmanship to it. And in the money world, especially if you're not educated in this, it's easy to manipulate people. And so it's a matter of ethics to not do that. And so I just want to recommend that you ask second, third level questions to get a better feel of the answers. Some other things to think about here, and then we'll wrap up with financial advisors, is ask their feelings about a number of these things here. Ask for their feelings about life insurance, their feelings about annuities, the stock market, the bond market, real estate, inflation, and cryptocurrency. I mean, take the time and let this be, and you might not get through all this in one meeting, but you can interview them. And if you have you'll find out if you're worth it to them to take the time to spend a couple meetings really getting to know their feelings on this. But you want to understand their feeling toward those different things, because there are shortfalls in every one of those items I just mentioned, but there's also there's plenty of good inside that, and you just want to understand what type of understanding do they have, what type of knowledge do they bring with this, and what background beliefs are going to skew the advice that they give you. Who builds their portfolios? Which fund families do they typically use, and why? Are they American funds for everything, or BlackRock for everything, or do they, do PIMCO here, and do they bounce around and have their favorites for different fund types, and just understand why behind that? What is the client communication rhythm that they like to keep? Do they say, listen, we're going to meet with you in Q1 and we're going to talk about this, and Q2 this, Q3 this, Q4 this, or we'll send you out an email and we'll meet with you when you want? Are they the type of people who we want to do a once a year review, or what is their communication rhythm like? And then in the clients that are in your net worth range, how often are they meeting with them? The more, and if they say, well, as often as a client wants, ask specifically, how often do the clients meet with you? And just understand that the more often that a client meets with their financial advisor, the more valuable that they find their financial advisor. Okay, on to the other two traits here. We'll speed that up a little bit. For lawyers, understand that inside this realm, there is a wide range of specialties, and there are some general practice lawyers who dabble across the board, and that might work for the complexity of the situation that you have. A simple trust or will, most lawyers can do that. Whether they will or not depends on the size of firm, the type of work that they do. But the larger the firm, and kind of more the larger the metropolitan area, the more specialized then the lawyer is probably into a specific portion of that trade. So regarding the estate planning, which is the largest piece of this from a financial perspective that most people are going to need, if you're getting a net worth of, when you're getting to 10 million and above, it probably makes a lot more sense for you to have a specialized estate planning attorney work with that. Again, the Christian perspective means a lot here. From the way that you would interact with other people, you'd want that. The legal field can be full of traps, and so you don't want to be one who is out setting the traps. We should be shrewd, as we've mentioned a number of times on this podcast. We're called to be shrewd as serpents here, but innocent as doves. And so with that perspective, you want a lawyer who's coming from the same viewpoint that you are. The experience is really important here. You'd like to understand, from a financial perspective, how high is the net worth of the clients that they're typically working with. Explain some of the complexities that they commonly deal with. I'd ask them, what about the rare ones? What are some of the rare, really specialized things that they've done? What's the most value that they've ever brought a client? That's another powerful question to spur on a little bit more of the interview process of you getting to know them. How they charge will typically be, some things are more of a transaction basis of a will is $300 and a trust is $3,000. If you're doing that, especially if you're doing a will, please also ask them, how do they charge for probate? Because that's something you need to know if you're doing a will only. The typical, though, is you're going to have an hourly fee. You might have a monthly retainer in there, but the fee is typically based off of every 6 minutes. And so we'll see $250 an hour. As you get more specialized, you can see $3,000 an hour or higher with that. So you'd like to understand, how do they use their paralegals, or they might call them their first years or second years. So just the lower qualified, therefore cheaper attorneys to do more of the legwork. for some of the work that you needed. That they're just going to have a partner review it. So understand how they use that and what those rates are. If you're going after a settlement or anything like that, you'd like to understand, do they work on a success fee? Do you pay only after success, or what does that look like as well? How much of a fee do they keep? And a third of the proceeds from a case is not uncommon in that realm. How do they split up their work in their firms? So if you come with a real estate transaction, who's going to handle that? Or an IRS claim? Do they have someone who's a tax specialist inside their firm? What about investment contracts or operating agreements when you have, if you have legal work like that? If you're a business owner here, it's really helpful if you find a law firm that can have, you can have one point of contact, one partner that is your key contact there, but inside their firm, they have specialties that reach across, all of the different areas that you're going to potentially need to use them for. And, you want to understand, I'd also ask them, hey, give me your thoughts on, from a financial planning perspective, my purview here, what type of entity structure do you recommend I do? Or what, and they might not give you that, but let's just say, what type of entity structure consultation have you given before to people? Where have you told them to change their entity structure and why? And just understand, say we try to decide whether they should be an S corp or a C corp, or are they going to get more complex in here? Well, we did this type of series LLC held inside a Wyoming holding company, and here's the anonymity that created and the legal protection it created, but the cost savings from a tax and entity work standpoint. Understanding a little bit more of the way that they approach doing their work. I've seen attorneys who wanted to do multiple foundations for a family when the family, only needed one, but they were recommending doing 3 because, in my perspective, they were trying to rack up the fees there. And so you just want to understand more of what their motives are there. How much are they trying to increase their billable hours versus really think from a planning perspective of what's right for you. Okay, on to taxes. So accounting, typically we're talking about CPAs here. CPA, all accountants are not CPAs, so it's important to make that distinction. But for the most part here, we're going to be talking about CPAs. So you want to understand, how do they work with their clients? Do they really only want to work with business owners or individuals and not business owners? What's their hourly rate for the tax work? What type of planning do they actually do? I see. So this is an area here where, and you can reference our last episode as we talk about this, but I see a lot of promises here that are not delivered upon very well, because a client comes in and they want to know that the CPA is going to help them with tax planning and help them put strategies in place that are going to save more money. What typically happens, though, is if the CPA is not reaching out to initiate that, the client isn't either, because the client's busy, and then another tax year has gone by where we haven't done any planning to implement any more complex strategies, more involved strategies, and therefore we just gave up another year of potential there and say, well, we'll just try harder next year. So that's very common here. So you want to understand, what type of planning do they actually do? Ask them, how many meetings per year would they be thinking of for you? So you might see a meeting schedule that looks like, in February, we're going to meet and look back at the previous year, do all the documentation collection that we need to prep for the filing, and also do planning for the current year. So what type of tax strategies are we putting in place this year for the whole year? We don't want to wait till November to do tax planning for the year. We want to start that in Q1 at the latest. In April, you might meet again to kind of do a review and file to get everything's ready to be filed. And so do a review then in July, and you do quarterlies at that point. In July, you've got quarterlies, do mid-year projection updates and strategy updates on anything from a tax planning perspective. October, same thing as the quarterlies, but then you really start putting together the tax organizer, making sure that you are organized, and that we have, we're starting to fill in everything of our mileage logs and our home office logs and our medical expenses and everything. So if we're doing that in October, and hopefully we've put a good accounting strategy in place along the way, then we're pretty clear of what we're going to need to pay out for that quarterly in December. We're also pretty clear about we eliminate a lot of the extra burden that comes, early in the year when people start trying to compile all the information for taxes. If you are a business owner here, you want to, understand, do they do payroll, bookkeeping? Will they do business taxes and personal taxes for you? Obviously, one-stop shop for that's important. A lot of CPAs like that. It's good extra revenue for them. Doesn't mean it's the most efficient way for you to do payroll through a CPA compared to having QuickBooks do that or something else like that. But that might be the right fit for you. And so getting that dialed in. Here, just some other strategies I've seen here or things to watch out for. If you have direct investments and you have K1s, then will they work with K1s? I've seen CPAs who won't work with K1s. I've seen CPAs who have said, I won't take any K1s that come after March 15th. And so if you've dealt with K1s for a while, you know that that's not always realistic here. And you might have good investments that don't get their K1s to you until May. And so we're going to have to file an extension. That's just how it goes. So if that's the case, you want to understand up front what their policy or stance is toward K1s. What strategies do they recommend to both business owners and non-business owners? So in this vein here, we are looking at ask them again. They're not going to give you specific client information, but they're going to talk about clients. I want to understand, what is it that you're typically recommending to them? Are you saying, hey, I think you should put more money into your IRAs and your 401k, and that's the extent of it? Then that's you're understanding you're not getting a lot of helpful tax strategy there. If you have someone who's offering up more complex strategies, that may or may not be the right fit for you, but you at least want someone who has that in their tool bag. Another reference back to the episode last week. If they knew that you would do the research, that you would that you would provide all the documentation and follow through, what other strategies would they recommend to you? That's another one there that's going to dig into what else is in the well there that they just don't tap into much, because they don't think that their clients are going to be able to handle it or do a good job with that. So if you ask a question like that, you'll get a feel for the type of work that they would like to do for you. What's the most, what do they typically save a client? How much do they typically save a client in taxes on an annual basis there? Maybe what's the most that they've ever saved? You can get an idea again for their skill set. With taxes, it's important to understand, does the CPA have a year-to-year perspective, or are they looking 10 years plus? And with that, what I mean is, are they trying to figure out how to save you the most money here in for 2024 tax year, or are they looking at what's the best plan for you over the next 10-year period? And so asking them to dig into that a little bit more and explain why, how so with that answer. If they want to put taxes, save you money by putting taxes into retirement accounts, but they know that you plan to retire at 50, well, what's the plan for age 50 until 59 and a half, when you can start accessing that money without penalties? So again, we want them involved with your financial planner. We want them involved with the attorney. Like those three different people should not be working in silos. They should be collaborating as to what is the best outcome for you. And that might mean foregoing tax savings that comes from putting money into a retirement account, because we're trying to build up more assets for you to use between now and age 59 and a half as well. So again, we want to make sure that they have that type of vision for you. Back to that 80%, that middle 80% question, like we referenced before here. What is the middle 80% of the net worth of their clients? And then for that percentile that you fall into, how do they work with them? What does that look like? How involved is the tax planning? What do those tax bills usually run, or their annual cost for that client usually run? That'd be really helpful. Another thing to think about is ask them, during the February through April time, are you guys working 80, 90, 100 hours a week, like so many CPAs do? And are you good with that as the client? Not all CPAs are that way. And when they get to that sense, obviously you understand that if you've been working 90 hours a week for the last 7 weeks, then the quality output may not be as sharp as it would if you were working less. So just understanding what type of pressure and workload they're under, and how do you feel about that? The other thing to ask is, what do they typically do for work in May through December, which will again tell you, are they doing a lot of heavy tax planning with clients, or they have a lot of business owners that they're just doing ongoing accounting with, or they doing audits, other things like that. So some stronger questions to let you understand how each of these people work with the clientele, and you get a better feel of what you're looking for, or of what you're going to get out of them. The concept of a Christian perspective applies heavily here. We don't want a CPA who is just going to help you pay your taxes on time. We want someone who is going to help you be shrewd and use the tax code to your advantage. That is okay, because the government has proven themselves not to be a fantastic steward of your assets. We want to keep as much of that money out of their hands as legally possible, and direct that, whether you choose to keep that for yourself or direct that toward other kingdom causes. Then now we're talking about being a good steward. With legal, we don't want to go around lawsuit happy. We don't want to have someone, you don't want a general practitioner, doing brain surgery, nor would they ever do that. But in the medical world, but in the legal world, you can certainly get in a case where you have an attorney who's practicing outside their skill set, and you just want to make sure that you've defined that. Back to the financial advisor, we want to make sure that you understand what biases they're coming with, and what type of product you're really going to get out of them. So I hope this helps as you look at what your team looks like, your financial team. If you've got questions on that, please reach out, let us know. Again, this is not a pitch for you to try to work with us. So I just hope that you're able to put your team that you have through a different, put them under a different type of microscope to make sure that they're producing the product that you want. Or if you're out hunting, that these questions will help you interview them better and get a better feel, other than just taking a referral and asking someone, you're really good, right? Like, I can trust you, right? All those questions aren't going to produce the depth of the answer you're looking for. So hope this helps. Thank you, and take care. God bless.
Thank you again for listening to Wealth Well Done. Be sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast player, and together we'll continue to improve our relationship with money and our effectiveness in stewarding it well.